Tibet, a land enshrouded in spirituality, is home to distinct cultural traditions and astounding natural scenery. Cradled amidst the towering peaks of the Himalayas, Tibet is a region where the sky seems to embrace the earth. In this journey, we'll explore deep into the heart of Tibet, unveiling a world where ancient traditions thrive and where the lives of its people are as captivating as the landscape they inhabit. Amidst this cultural mosaic, we encounter intriguing practices like fraternal polyandry. This is a practice in which one woman can marry two or more siblings simultaneously, most commonly brothers. This unique marital arrangement, rooted in economic necessity and social tradition, forms a complex yet fascinating facet of Tibetan society. It challenges our understanding of family structures and invites us to explore the intricate balance between survival, culture, and the preservation of heritage in this magnificent land. Join us as we journey into Tibet and explore everything about this incredible land, including the life of the urban Tibetans, who weave the threads of tradition with the sinews of modernity, and the nomadic Drokpa, herders of the high plateau whose tents dot the vast expanse like stars in the night sky. We'll delve into the agrarian rhythms of the Tibetan agriculturalists, custodians of the fertile valleys where barley and wheat sway in the mountain breeze. We'll also journey into the serene Buddhist monasteries of the Tibetan monks, diving into a world of spiritual pursuit and ancient wisdom. Tibet, often referred to as the roof of the world, is a region of profound cultural, geographical, and spiritual significance. Covering a space that is almost the same size as Western Europe, Tibet, specifically the Tibet Autonomous Region, is a large part of China. Expanding the scope to the entire Tibetan plateau, the area nearly doubles in size. Tibet is considered one of the most secluded regions on Earth, situated at an average elevation of around 4,900 meters, 16,000 feet, making it the highest region on Earth. This means that the oxygen levels are significantly lower compared to sea level. Visitors often experience a drop in available oxygen by up to 40%. This thin air can lead to altitude sickness in those not acclimatized. However, the air in Tibet is also known for its clarity and purity, offering breathtakingly clear views of the stunning landscapes and vivid blue skies that characterize the Tibetan plateau. The Tibetan people have undergone remarkable genetic adaptations to thrive in the high-altitude, low-oxygen environment of the Tibetan plateau. This adaptation is a fascinating example of human evolution in response to extreme environmental conditions. Unlike people living at sea level, Tibetans have developed a unique set of physiological responses that allow them to function efficiently in environments where oxygen is scarce. One key adaptation is their higher than normal nitric oxide levels. Nitric oxide is a molecule that helps blood flow and oxygen delivery to tissues. Higher levels in Tibetans enhance blood flow, thereby increasing the oxygen supply to their organs. Additionally, Tibetans have a different hemoglobin concentration in their blood. In most high-altitude dwellers, the body compensates for lower oxygen by increasing the production of red blood cells, which carry oxygen. However, this can lead to a condition called polycythemia, an excessive thickening of the blood. Tibetans, however, don't typically exhibit this response. Instead, they have genetically adapted to maintain a lower hemoglobin concentration, preventing the blood from becoming too viscous, which helps maintain better blood flow and reduces the risk of complications like blood clots and strokes. These genetic adaptations make Tibetans exceptionally efficient at utilizing oxygen, which in turn makes them more energetic and less prone to altitude sickness in high-altitude conditions compared to people from lower elevations. Their bodies are naturally tuned to the environment, allowing them to perform physically demanding tasks at altitudes that would exhaust or debilitate others. This high-altitude terrain includes the formidable north face of Mount Everest, known as Chomolungma in Tibetan, which reaches an awe-inspiring height of almost 9,000 meters, 29,000 feet. This region, part of the Himalayas, the world's highest mountain range, forms a massive barrier stretching over 1,500 miles along the borders between India, Nepal, Bhutan, and China. The climate in Tibet is something of an anomaly. Despite its proximity to the equator, the high altitude results in a harsh and dry climate. Winters are brutally cold, with temperatures dropping as low as -40 degrees in some areas, while summers are surprisingly cool, rarely exceeding 20 degrees Celsius or 68 degrees Fahrenheit. This extreme climate significantly influences the region's ecology and the lifestyle of its inhabitants. Tibet's natural environment is characterized by its unique flora and fauna, adapted to survive in the high altitude and harsh climatic conditions. The Tibetan Plateau is home to rare species like the Tibetan antelope or chiru, famous for their fine, warm wool known as chartouche. The yak, an iconic symbol of Tibet, is a key part of the region's ecosystem, providing locals with a source of meat, milk, and wool, and even serving as a beast of burden. The elusive snow leopard, an apex predator in the high mountains, and the Tibetan wild ass or kiong are other notable species found in this region. Other interesting animals found in Tibet are the Tibetan brown bear, the Tibetan sand fox, the Pallas cat, and the Tibetan wolf. To protect their livestock against these predators, the ancient nomads in Tibet bred the Tibetan mastiff, a large dog from the mastiff family that retained the instincts and hardiness required to survive in the harsh habitats of Tibet and other parts of the Himalayas. This includes a large body, double coat of fur, and canine pack behaviors. The Tibetan Mastiffs are considered the most expensive dogs in the world due to their rarity. The vegetation in Tibet is sparse due to the high altitude and cold temperatures, with the landscape characterized by hardy grasslands and shrubs. At these altitudes, Tibetans cultivated the black diamond apple, a rare and exquisite fruit that can't be found anywhere else on the world. This apple stands out for its unique deep purple, almost black skin, a result of the intense ultraviolet light at high altitudes. The flesh of the black diamond apple is known for being juicier and sweeter than regular apples, often described as having a better taste with a perfect balance of sweetness and tartness. Due to the challenging growing environment and limited production, the black diamond apples are considered a luxury fruit and can be quite expensive. The cost of these apples can range significantly, but they have been known to sell for around $7 to $20 per apple, depending on the market and season. The high price is not just for their taste, but also for their rarity and the unique cultivation efforts required in the Tibetan highlands. This unique ecosystem is part of the larger Qinghai Tibet Plateau, often referred to as the Third Pole, due to its extensive ice fields, which are only surpassed in size by the polar regions. Tibet holds the third largest store of water and ice in the world after the Arctic and Antarctic. With a lake, river, or glacier at every turn, the immensity of this region's water resources are vital, as 47% of the world's population depends on the flow of fresh water from Tibet. Tibet is also referred to as the Water Tower of Asia, as it is the source of several of Asia's major rivers, including the Yangtze, Yellow, Indus, Mekong, and Brahmaputra rivers. These rivers originate from the glaciers of the Tibetan Plateau and provide vital water supplies for billions of people in countries downstream. The region also boasts numerous high-altitude lakes, such as Lake Namtso, which, at an elevation of around 15,000 feet, or 4,700 meters, is one of the highest saltwater lakes in the world. These lakes are not only stunningly beautiful, but also play a crucial role in the regional climate and ecosystem. The mountain ranges of Tibet are more than just spectacular natural wonders. They have historically served as barriers and gateways. The high passes of these mountains have been traversed for centuries by traders, pilgrims, and invaders, creating a rich field of cultural and historical interactions. The mountains themselves are of great spiritual significance in Tibetan Buddhism and Hinduism. Mount Kailash, revered as a sacred mountain by several religions, is a prime example of the profound spiritual connection the people of the region have with their natural environment. It is considered the abode of Lord Shiva in Hinduism and a sacred place in Buddhism, Jainism, and Burn. The mountain is distinct for its four-sided summit, resembling a pyramid and often shrouded in snow. Pilgrims from various faiths undertake a challenging circumambulation known as a kora around the mountain, a ritual believed to bring spiritual benefits and good fortune. Mount Kailash has never been climbed in deference to its sacred status and the beliefs of the local communities. The Tibetan people and their culture have roots that extend deep into history, with origins often linked to the indigenous Bon religion and the ancient Zhangzhung culture. This early period is shrouded in mystery, as much of its history is derived from oral traditions and later Buddhist writings. The Tibetan script, developed in the 7th century, was a crucial step in recording Tibetan history and is based on Sanskrit, reflecting early influences from neighbouring cultures. Ancient Tibet was not just a cradle of culture and spirituality, but also a centre for trade, as its strategic location on the Silk Road connected it to the far-reaching trade networks between East and West. The Tibetan Empire, which came into prominence in the 7th century under Emperor Songtsen Gampo, marked a significant era of expansion and influence. Emperor Songtsen Gampo is also credited with the establishment of the Tibetan Empire's capital in Lhasa and the construction of the first Buddhist temples in Tibet, including the Jokang and Ramoch temples. The Tibetan script and coinage were developed during this time, signaling the rise of a sophisticated and centralized administration. The introduction and establishment of Buddhism in Tibet, initially met with resistance, gradually became a cornerstone of Tibetan identity. The 11th century onwards witnessed the flourishing of monastic Buddhism, with the founding of various schools and monasteries that played a significant role in Tibetan society. The monasteries were not just religious centers, but also hubs of learning, art, and community life. The Dalai Lamas, starting from the 14th century, became the spiritual and temporal leaders of Tibet, symbolizing the unique blend of religion and governance that characterized Tibetan society. Modern history brought tumultuous changes to Tibet. The 20th century was marked by increasing interactions and conflicts with neighboring China. The early part of the century saw Tibet assert its independence, though this was not widely recognized internationally. In 1950, the People's Republic of China asserted control over Tibet, leading to significant political and social changes. The 1959 Tibetan uprising resulted in the Dalai Lama fleeing to India, where he established the Tibetan government in exile in Dharamsala. This event marked a significant shift in Tibetan resistance and the beginning of the international Tibetan freedom movement. The Chinese government, while acknowledging Buddhism, a religion widely practiced in China despite the country's communist framework, appointed their own Panchen Lama in 1995. This appointment came 6 years after the passing of the previous Panchen Lama. However, the individual chosen by the Chinese authorities differed from the selection made by the current Dalai Lama. The latter's chosen successor has since been kept in a concealed location within China. In Tibet, images of this government-appointed Panchen Lama are widespread, in stark contrast to the legal prohibition on possessing photographs of the 14th Dalai Lama, which can lead to fines or imprisonment. Many Tibetans view this discrepancy in the recognition of the next Dalai Lama as a primary effort by the Chinese government to diminish Tibetan culture and identity. The prohibition extends to the Tibetan flag, which does not fly anywhere in the country. Instead, the Chinese flags are hung on the rooftops of houses. The flag of Tibet is often referred to as the Snow Lion flag or the Free Tibet flag. It's currently used by the Tibetan government in exile and widely recognized by the Tibetan diaspora as a symbol of their national identity, steeped in history and symbolism. Central to the flag are two snow lions facing each other, representing the nation's fearless and triumphant character. These mythical creatures stand on a mountain, symbolizing Tibet's geographical prominence as the roof of the world. Between them, they hold a flaming jewel, a representation of the Tibetan people's spiritual and material wealth. The flag's background comprises several important colors. A radiant sun with its rays extending across the flag symbolizes freedom and the nourishment of all beings, a common theme in Buddhist symbology. The blue rays emanating from the sun represent the 10 directions of Buddhism and the universal spirit of peace and happiness. Surrounding the sun and lions is a border of yellow, a color traditionally associated with the spread of Buddhist teachings. In addition to the flag, other symbols hold significant cultural and religious importance in Tibet. The 8 auspicious symbols, or ashtamangala, are frequently seen in Tibetan art and ritual. These include the endless knot, symbolizing the interconnectedness of all things, the lotus flower, representing purity and enlightenment, and the Dharma wheel, denoting the teachings of the Buddha. Mani stones, often inscribed with the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum, are another unique Tibetan symbol. These stones, placed in public areas, are believed to spread spiritual blessings. Prayer wheels, spun to disseminate spiritual blessings and teachings, are another common sight. These wheels often contain scrolls with printed or written mantras. Spinning the wheel is believed to release these prayers and mantras into the universe, multiplying their beneficial effects and spreading compassion and positive energy. The clockwise direction of spinning is significant because it aligns with the movement of the sun across the sky and is consistent with the circumambulation of stupas and other sacred objects in a clockwise direction. For this reason, if you ever visit Tibet or other Buddhist country, it's important to never spin these scrolls counterclockwise. Similarly, colorful prayer flags are a ubiquitous sight in Tibet, with each color representing an element and the flags collectively symbolizing the spread of peace, compassion, strength, and wisdom. Thangka paintings, a traditional form of Tibetan Buddhist art, are rich in symbolism, often depicting deities, mandalas, or scenes from the Buddha's life. These intricate paintings serve as meditation aids and a means of preserving and transmitting religious teachings. Collectively, these symbols represent more than just the religious beliefs of the Tibetan people. They embody a rich cultural heritage, a deep connection to the land, and a persistent spirit of resilience and hope. Whether displayed in temples, homes, or public spaces, these symbols are integral to the Tibetan way of life, offering insights into the values, traditions, and spiritual aspirations of this unique Himalayan culture. Tibet's cultural heritage is very vivid, woven from the threads of its unique traditions, arts, and societal norms. Central to Tibetan culture is the tradition of storytelling, which has been a medium for preserving history, moral values, and spiritual beliefs for generations. Epic tales like the story of King Gesa, the longest epic in the world according to the Guinness World Records, are not only literary masterpieces, but also encapsulate Tibetan values, history, and cosmology. Music and dance are integral parts of Tibetan life, reflecting the blend of sacred and secular themes. Traditional Tibetan music includes religious chants and secular songs, often accompanied by instruments like the damnyen, a 6-stringed lute, lingbu, a transverse flute, and drums. The music is deeply entwined with Tibetan Buddhism, with spiritual chants being a key component of religious ceremonies. Secular music often revolves around themes of nature, love, and storytelling, reflecting the everyday experiences of the Tibetan people. In Tibet, dances ranges from the sacred charm dances, which are masked and costumed performances typically carried out by monks in monasteries, to the more secular folk dances performed in villages and towns. These dances are not just forms of entertainment, but also serve as mediums for imparting moral lessons and preserving folklore. In the realm of traditional handicrafts, Tibetan culture boasts a wide array of unique crafts that include statue making, wood carving, and textile weaving. Textile weaving in particular is a very important craft in Tibet, with the region being famous for its woolen fabrics, particularly those made from yak and sheep wool. These textiles are used for making traditional clothing such as the chuba, a long sheepskin-lined robe that is well suited to the cold Tibetan climate. Patterns and designs in Tibetan textiles often have cultural or religious significance, with certain motifs being traditional and holding symbolic meanings. One of the most unique and profound customs among Tibetans is the practice of sky burials. In this tradition, the deceased are offered to the vultures as an act of compassion and a reminder of the impermanence of life. This practice, known as jator, stems from Buddhist beliefs in reincarnation and the transitory nature of the physical body. The bodies are taken to designated sky burial sites, usually on high, remote mountains, where monks perform rituals before the vultures consume the remains. This custom underscores the deep connection with nature and the spiritual pragmatism of the Tibetan people, emphasizing the cycle of life and death. Tibet observes its own unique Tibetan lunar calendar, which holds immense cultural and religious importance. This traditional calendar, based on the moon's phases, sets the pace for Tibetan life and festivities. The beginning of the Tibetan year typically falls between late January and early March, marking the Losar festival, a vibrant celebration of new beginnings. Losar, the Tibetan New Year, is a significant celebration that marks the end of the old and the beginning of the new year. This festival, which can last up to 15 days, involves a variety of rituals, from elaborate spiritual ceremonies in monasteries to lively community gatherings. Homes are cleaned and decorated, special foods are prepared, and families come together to celebrate. The festival is also marked by the hanging of new prayer flags, but it's the communal aspect and the joyous embracing of a new beginning that truly characterizes Losar. Astrology in Tibet, known as Tsi, is an integral part of the culture, deeply interwoven with daily life and decision-making. This unique form of astrology is a blend of Indian, Chinese, and ancient Bon influences. In the life of an individual, astrology plays a crucial role right from birth. Astrological charts are created based on the exact time and date of birth to predict future prospects and guide significant life decisions. These charts are often referred to throughout an individual's life for guidance on various matters. When it comes to marriage, astrological compatibility is a common consideration. The alignment of stars and planets at the time of birth of both individuals is analysed to predict marital harmony and future prosperity. This practice is deeply rooted in the belief that celestial influences can profoundly impact personal relationships. Business decisions and financial ventures are also heavily influenced by astrology. Important activities like starting new enterprises or signing significant contracts are often planned according to auspicious dates and times determined by astrological readings. This practice stems from the belief that the success of a venture can be influenced by the cosmic forces at play at its inception. Tibetan astrology is also closely linked with the Tibetan medical system. The positions of celestial bodies are believed to affect physical and mental health. Therefore, astrological readings can inform the timing of medical treatments and the use of specific medicinal remedies, aligning healthcare with cosmic rhythms. The traditional system of Tibetan medicine, known as Amki, is another fascinating aspect. This holistic approach combines physical, spiritual, and psychological elements and is rooted in Buddhist philosophy. The practice involves the use of natural remedies, such as herbs and minerals, along with techniques like acupuncture and moxibustion. The Amki system is holistic, treating the body as a whole and aiming to balance the energies within it. This medical tradition is not just about curing ailments, but is also a way of life, focusing on maintaining harmony and balance to prevent disease. The harvesting of cordyceps, a type of fungus highly valued in traditional medicine, is a unique practice in Tibet. It involves foraging in high-altitude meadows to find this prized fungus, which grows parasitically on caterpillars. This activity is not only economically significant, but also a cultural event, as it involves the entire community, and is often accompanied by rituals and celebrations. Tibetans also have a practice of consulting oracles and using divination methods, reflecting the Tibetan belief in the interconnectedness of the spiritual and material worlds. Oracles in Tibet, known as kuten, are individuals who act as mediums for deities or spiritual entities. The most renowned is the State Oracle of Tibet, who traditionally plays a pivotal role in national decisions and has historically been a close advisor to the Dalai Lama. During special ceremonies, these oracles enter trance-like states, allowing them to channel spiritual entities. In these states, they offer advice, predictions, and insights into various matters ranging from personal guidance to national issues. The words spoken by the oracles in these trances are highly revered and considered as messages from the divine. Divination, another key aspect of Tibetan spirituality, encompasses a variety of methods used to gain insight into the future or to make decisions. The most common form of divination in Tibet is the mo, a method which involves the throwing of dice or drawing of lots in conjunction with specific texts. Monks and lamas who are skilled in these practices interpret the results to provide guidance. This can range from determining the auspicious date for an event, diagnosing illnesses, to making significant life decisions. The reliance on oracles and divination in Tibet is not just a matter of superstition or tradition. It reflects a deep-seated belief in the existence of a spiritual world that influences the material realm. These practices are deeply intertwined with Tibetan Buddhism and are seen as a means to gain wisdom, understanding, and guidance from spiritual forces. In Tibetan society, oracles and divination are respected and are often turned to in times of uncertainty or major decisions. They offer a bridge between the earthly and the divine, providing a source of comfort and direction in a world where the spiritual and the material are inextricably linked. Their role is not only in foreseeing the future, but in helping to navigate the complexities of life with a sense of spiritual support and guidance. Polyandry, the practice of a woman having more than one husband, is a fascinating and unique aspect of Tibetan social structure. Though less common in contemporary times, it has historically been a significant feature of Tibetan society, particularly in rural and nomadic communities. This practice, deeply embedded in the cultural and economic fabric of Tibet, offers a window into the adaptive strategies of a society shaped by its harsh and demanding environment. In traditional Tibetan polyandry, brothers would share a single wife, a practice known as fraternal polyandry. This arrangement, while strikingly unusual from a Western perspective, evolved as a pragmatic solution to several social and economic challenges faced by Tibetans. The harsh climate and scarce arable land in the Tibetan plateau meant that maintaining large families or dividing property among siblings could lead to economic hardship and diminished prospects for survival. By keeping the family unit united and the landholding intact, polyandry served as an effective means to manage resources and ensure the family's economic sustainability. The practice of polyandry also had significant social and familial implications. It reinforced family bonds and reduced the potential for conflict over property inheritance. In these family units, all children were considered the offspring of all the husbands, fostering a strong sense of collective responsibility and cooperation. This structure provided a stable environment for child rearing, with multiple male figures contributing to the upbringing and welfare of the children. From a demographic perspective, polyandry helped in population control, a crucial factor in a region where resources were limited. By limiting the number of offspring a woman could have, the practice played a role in maintaining a sustainable population level in line with the available resources. Religiously and culturally, Tibetan Buddhism does not explicitly prohibit polyandry, and the practice has not traditionally been stigmatized in Tibetan society. The pragmatic benefits of polyandry were often seen as aligning well with Buddhist teachings, which emphasize detachment from material possessions and a focus on collective well-being. In terms of the personal dynamics within these marriages, the practice of polyandry created a unique set of relationship norms and expectations. Communication and cooperation were essential, And while the arrangement could lead to complexities and challenges, it often resulted in strong, cohesive family units. The wife in a polyandrous marriage held a significant role, often managing the household and having a substantial say in family matters. Economically, polyandrous families tended to be more affluent and stable than monogamous ones, as the combined efforts of multiple husbands could lead to more efficient land use and better economic outcomes. This was particularly important in a subsistence economy where maximizing agricultural output was crucial for survival. However, the practice of polyandry in Tibet has been declining over the past few decades. This change can be attributed to several factors, including economic modernization, land reforms, increased mobility, and the influence of external cultural norms. As young Tibetans move to cities for education and employment, they are exposed to different lifestyles and marital practices, leading to a gradual shift away from traditional polyandry. Moreover, the Chinese government's policies in Tibet, including the imposition of communal farming during the Cultural Revolution and subsequent economic reforms, have altered the traditional land use patterns and economic structures that supported polyandry. These changes have led to an increased prevalence of nuclear families and monogamous marriages. Despite its decline, the practice of polyandry in Tibet remains a subject of interest for anthropologists and sociologists. It challenges many conventional notions about marriage and family structure and offers insights into how human societies adapt to their environments. The Drokpa, or Tibetan nomads, are an integral part of the cultural and social landscape of Tibet, embodying a way of life that has been in existence for thousands of years. Their lifestyle is a remarkable adaptation to one of the most challenging environments on Earth, the high-altitude Tibetan Plateau. Living at altitudes that often exceed 14,000 feet, or 4,500 meters, the Drokpa have developed a unique way of life that is intimately connected to the land and their livestock. Their primary occupation is herding yaks, sheep and goats, animals uniquely suited to the harsh conditions of the Tibetan Plateau. The yak, in particular, is central to Drokpa life, providing milk, meat, fur for clothing and tents, and dung for fuel. The Drokpa move seasonally, following a traditional migratory pattern that ensures their herds have access to the best pastures and water sources. Their homes are the iconic black tents made from yak hair, known for their ability to withstand the strong winds and extreme temperatures of the plateau. These tents are portable, a necessity for a people who may move several times in a year. In hot weather, the loose wool weaves let wind blow through, keeping the air fresh and cool inside. On cold weather, the tent weaves become tight, keeping wind, cold and rain out. There are two kinds of tents: black yak wool tents and white cloth tents. People in pastoral areas are used to living in yak wool tents. The smaller and elegant white tents have traditionally been used by Tibetan girls. Pastoral people generally have a couple of these lighter white cloth tents. The interior of a Drokpa tent is typically arranged with the living area on one side and the kitchen on the other, and is often decorated with colourful rugs and fabrics. A typical Tibetan tent covers an area of approximately 200 square feet and has a height of about 6 feet, designed with a ventilation slit at the top. This slit is multifunctional. It allows smoke and heat to escape when opened and helps to keep the tent warm and protected from wind and rain when covered. The front of the tent features a door curtain tied with a string, which can be adjusted to control the entrance. On warm days, this curtain can be lifted to allow air circulation, making the inside of the tent cool and comfortable. In these tents, adults and children share the space, each having their own designated area. They typically gather around a fire made of yak dung and juniper branches in an open hearth located in the center of the tent. Above this area, yak cheese is hung from the walls, stored alongside piles of heavy blankets. Women usually stay near the camp, involved in various tasks such as weaving blankets and making butter, whereas men tend to the grazing of the animals. When autumn arrives and the animals are well nourished, the nomads move to markets, cities, or trading areas to sell or trade their livestock. These transactions are vital for procuring supplies needed to sustain them throughout the winter and the entire year. The diet of the Drokpa is primarily based on what their environment and livestock can provide. Tsampa, roasted barley flour, butter tea and dairy products are staples, supplemented by meat and wild herbs. Their food is high in nutrients and calories, necessary to sustain them in the harsh climate. The economic system of the Drokpa is largely subsistence-based, with trade playing a role in acquiring goods that cannot be produced locally. In recent years, some Drokpa have begun to engage in trade more actively, selling yak butter, cheese, wool and meat to supplement their income. Apart from their herding routines, there are several aspects of their lifestyle that are quite intriguing. One remarkable feature of the Drokpa is their proficiency in horse riding. Horses are not just a mode of transportation, they are deeply ingrained in their culture. Children as young as 3 or 4 years old are often seen riding horses with confidence and skill. This equestrian expertise is showcased during local festivals, where horse races and skill competitions are a major attraction. These events are not just for entertainment, but also serve as a platform for maintaining social connections and reinforcing cultural traditions. The Drokpa's social interactions are characterized by a strong sense of community and camaraderie. Their nomadic lifestyle necessitates mutual support and cooperation, which are deeply rooted values in their culture. They often form closely knit groups, moving together and sharing resources. This sense of community extends to their interactions with outsiders as well. Visitors are often struck by the warmth and hospitality of the Drokpa, who are known to welcome strangers into their tents and share their modest provisions without hesitation. In the serene valleys and lower regions of Tibet, another community of people thrives, closely tied to the rhythm of the seasons and the yield of the earth. These are the Tibetan agriculturalists, custodians of the land who engage in an age-old practice of farming, cultivating crops like barley, wheat and other staples, pivotal to the sustenance and culture of the Tibetan people. The life of an agriculturalist in Tibet is one deeply entwined with the land. The majority of their year revolves around the agricultural calendar, sowing, tending and harvesting. The primary crop is barley, a resilient grain well suited to the harsh climatic conditions of the region. Barley is not just a food source, but a cultural symbol. Wheat, potatoes and various vegetables are also grown, depending on the altitude and climate of the specific region. The farming techniques employed by these agriculturalists are a blend of traditional methods passed down through generations and modern practices that are slowly being integrated. Plowing the fields is often done with yaks or dizos, a yak-cow hybrid, an image that encapsulates the essence of traditional Tibetan agriculture. The use of organic fertilizers, typically derived from animal manure, is common, emphasizing a sustainable approach to farming that respects the natural environment. Living in harmony with nature, the Tibetan agriculturalists have developed a keen understanding of their environment. They are adept at reading weather patterns and making crucial decisions about planting and harvesting times. This knowledge is not just scientific, but also steeped in local folklore and spiritual beliefs. For instance, certain days are deemed auspicious for sowing seeds based on the Tibetan lunar calendar. The community life of these agriculturalists is rich and vibrant. Villages in the farming regions are tight-knit communities where everyone knows each other and social life revolves around the agricultural calendar. Festivals and celebrations are often tied to the farming cycle, like the sowing festivals in spring and the harvest festivals in autumn. These events are not just a cause for celebration, but also a vital means of social cohesion and cultural continuity. Family life among the agriculturalists is structured around the farming lifestyle. Families often work together in the fields, and knowledge about farming techniques and land management is passed from one generation to the next. Children learn about agriculture from a young age, helping with small tasks and gradually taking on more responsibilities as they grow. Agriculturalists' homes in Tibet are typically made from local materials like stone and wood. They are designed to withstand the cold climate, with thick walls and small windows. Inside, the homes are adorned with colorful Tibetan textiles and often have a central hearth. Despite the idyllic imagery, life for the Tibetan agriculturalists is not without its challenges. The harsh climate of Tibet means that the growing season is short, and the risk of crop failure due to weather extremes is always present. The challenges posed by modernization and globalization are also felt here. Younger generations are often drawn to the cities in search of education and employment opportunities, leading to a gradual change in the traditional way of life and the potential loss of agricultural knowledge and practices. Moreover, the political and economic changes in the region over the past decades have impacted the way these communities function. Land reforms and the introduction of new policies have sometimes disrupted traditional land ownership and farming practices. However, the resilience of the Tibetan agriculturalists shines through as they adapt to these changes while striving to preserve their cultural heritage. The role of women in these communities is particularly noteworthy. Women are integral to the agricultural process, involved in every aspect from planting to harvesting. They also manage households and care for children, demonstrating a remarkable strength and versatility. The balance of responsibilities between men and women in these societies reflects a deep-seated sense of equality and cooperation. The life of the Tibetan agriculturalists is a fascinating blend of tradition and adaptation. In their fields and homes, one can witness a lifestyle that has sustained and nurtured the Tibetan culture for centuries. Their connection to the land, their community-oriented lifestyle, and their spiritual practices offer valuable insights into sustainable living and cultural preservation. The contrast between rural and urban life in Tibet is stark, reflecting a diverse lifestyles, cultures, and traditions within the region. In rural Tibet, life is predominantly shaped by the harsh natural environment and the need for subsistence living. In contrast, urban Tibet, particularly in cities like Lhasa, Shigatse, and Gyantse, presents a different picture. These cities are where traditional Tibetan culture meets modernity. Here, amidst the urban sprawl, a new facet of Tibetan life is revealed. The urban centers of Tibet, particularly Lhasa, the capital city, are melting pots of culture, religion, and commerce. These cities, with their historical monasteries and temples juxtaposed against growing modern infrastructure, encapsulate the dynamic evolution of Tibetan society. Urban Tibetans engage in a variety of occupations, reflecting the diverse economic landscape of the cities. Many are involved in trade, a traditional occupation that has evolved significantly with modern transportation and communication technologies. Markets in Lhasa and Shigatse brim with a mixture of traditional Tibetan goods, such as handicrafts, thangka paintings and jewelry, alongside modern products. This blend of old and new is a hallmark of the urban Tibetan marketplaces, where the rich heritage of Tibetan craftsmanship meets the demands of a globalized economy. These crafts are not only a source of income, but also a means of preserving and celebrating Tibetan artistic traditions. The meticulous attention to detail and the deep spiritual and cultural symbolism embedded in these crafts exemplify the profound connection between Tibetan art and spirituality. Modern occupations are also prevalent among urban Tibetans. With the growth of education and technological access, many Tibetans in the cities work in sectors such as hospitality, education, healthcare, and administration. Younger generations in particular are increasingly pursuing careers in technology and business, sectors that were virtually non-existent in traditional Tibetan society. The education system in urban areas reflects this blend of tradition and modernity. Schools in cities like Lhasa offer standard Chinese educational curricula, often alongside teachings in Tibetan language and culture. This dual approach equips young urban Tibetans with the skills needed to navigate the modern world while maintaining a strong connection to their cultural heritage. Urban Tibetan life is also characterized by a vibrant social and cultural scene. Festivals, both traditional Tibetan and modern, are celebrated with fervor in the cities. These events are not only significant religious and cultural observances, but also opportunities for social gathering and community strengthening. Monasteries and temples in urban areas play a central role in these celebrations, hosting various religious and cultural activities. Despite the urban setting, religion remains a cornerstone of life for urban Tibetans. Buddhism influences many aspects of daily life, from the prayer flags fluttering in the wind to the small shrines found in many homes and businesses. Monasteries in Lhasa and Shigatse, such as the Jokang Temple and Tashil Hunpo Monastery, are not just historic and religious landmarks, but active centers of worship and community gatherings. These places are frequented not only by monks and nuns, but also by lay people who come for prayer, meditation, and to participate in religious ceremonies. The culinary scene in these urban areas is another place where traditional Tibetan culture intersects with modern influences. While traditional Tibetan dishes like momos, thukpa, and butter tea remain popular, the cities also offer a variety of other cuisines, reflecting the growing diversity and cosmopolitan nature of urban Tibet. Restaurants and cafes catering to tourists and locals alike serve a blend of Chinese, Indian, Nepalese, and Western dishes alongside traditional Tibetan fare. The influence of tourism in these urban centers has been significant. Tibet's unique culture and stunning landscapes draw visitors from around the world. This influx has spurred economic growth, but also raised concerns about cultural preservation and environmental sustainability. Urban Tibetans are often involved in the tourism industry, working in hotels, as tour guides, or selling crafts and souvenirs. This interaction with tourists provides an opportunity for cultural exchange, but also challenges Tibetans to balance economic benefits with the preservation of their cultural heritage. Urban Tibetans are also active in the realm of contemporary arts and media. A growing number of Tibetan writers, filmmakers, and musicians are using modern mediums to express their cultural identity and address social issues. This creative output not only contributes to the cultural richness of urban Tibet, but also plays a role in raising awareness about Tibetan issues on a global stage. Environmental concerns are also a part of urban life. With the increasing urbanization and development, issues like pollution and waste management have become more prominent. Many urban Tibetans, drawing on their cultural reverence for nature, are involved in initiatives to protect the environment and promote sustainable living practices in the cities. Perhaps the most well-known and iconic people of Tibet are the monks. The life of Tibetan monks is a journey deeply entrenched in spirituality, discipline, and a commitment to the practices and teachings of Buddhism. Rooted in a tradition that dates back centuries, the daily existence of these monks is both intriguing and inspiring, offering a glimpse into a world where spiritual pursuits take precedence over materialistic endeavors. A typical day for a Tibetan monk begins early, often before sunrise. The sound of a gong or bell signals the start of the day, summoning the monks to their first prayers and meditation sessions. This early morning ritual sets the tone for the day, emphasizing mindfulness and spiritual focus. Meditation, a cornerstone of their practice, is not just a form of prayer, but a method of cultivating inner peace, compassion, and wisdom in line with Buddhist teachings. After morning prayers, the monks engage in various chores. Monastic life is communal, and every monk, regardless of status, contributes to the daily upkeep of the monastery. These tasks range from cleaning the monastery premises to preparing meals in the communal kitchen. This emphasis on communal living and shared responsibilities is a practice in humility and service, key virtues in Buddhist philosophy. Education is a significant aspect of a monk's life. Young monks, often joining the monastery as children, receive a rigorous education that encompasses Buddhist philosophy, Tibetan history, literature, and often the English language and modern subjects. Senior monks, well versed in Buddhist texts, teach these classes. The traditional debate is a critical component of their learning process. In these lively debates, monks challenge each other on various aspects of Buddhist doctrine, honing their understanding and rhetorical skills. This method of learning encourages analytical thinking and a deeper comprehension of Buddhist teachings. Mealtimes in the monastery are simple and follow strict rules. The diet is usually vegetarian, adhering to the Buddhist principle of non-violence. Meals are taken in silence, allowing the monks to focus on the act of eating mindfully and with gratitude. In some monasteries, monks go on daily alms rounds in the nearby community, where they receive food offerings from lay people. This practice fosters a connection with the local community and serves as a reminder of the interdependence between the monastic and lay communities. Afternoons are typically dedicated to personal study, meditation, and participation in communal rituals. Rituals and prayers are an integral part of daily life, with monks often performing ceremonies that involve chanting, the use of musical instruments, and the creation of religious art like sand mandalas. Mandalas created by Tibetan Buddhist monks are intricate and symbolic art forms that hold great spiritual significance. Creating a mandala is a meditative and painstaking process. Monks start by consecrating the site with sacred chants and music. They then use metal funnels called chakpur to meticulously apply coloured sand, grain by grain, to create the elaborate patterns. The sand is usually dyed with natural pigments. The design starts from the centre and works outward, a process that can take several days to weeks depending on the complexity of the mandala. Monks meditate on the mandala, envisioning themselves entering it and journeying towards its centre, a journey that represents transformation from the mundane to the enlightened state of mind. Once a mandala is completed, it is not left for long. In a ritual known as the dismantling ceremony, the monks sweep up the sand to symbolize the impermanence of life and the material world. This sand is often then dispersed in a nearby river or stream to spread the mandala's blessings. This act reinforces the Buddhist belief in the transient nature of life. These rituals are not only spiritual practices, but also a way to preserve and pass on the rich cultural heritage of Tibetan Buddhism. The life of a Tibetan monk is not all seclusion and seriousness, though. Monks often engage in recreational activities such as sports and hiking. These activities provide a balance to their rigorous spiritual and intellectual routines. Additionally, monks celebrate various Buddhist festivals with great fervour, which are times of joyous gathering, marked by special prayers, dances, and the display of giant thankas. One of the most significant aspects of a Tibetan monk's life is the pursuit of personal enlightenment and the cultivation of compassion for all beings. This is central to their spiritual practice and is reflected in their daily activities, interactions, and teachings. As night falls, the monastery quiets down. Monks gather once more for evening prayers and meditation, reflecting on the day and preparing for the night. The day ends as it began, with a focus on spiritual reflection. Living a life that is starkly different from the secular world, Tibetan monks embody a tradition that values spiritual growth, community service, and inner peace. Their life is a testament to the endurance of Tibetan Buddhism and its practices amidst the challenges of modern times. The discipline and devotion of these monks are not merely for personal salvation. They embody a larger commitment to spreading compassion and wisdom in the world. The monks' connection to the outside world varies. While some monasteries are more isolated, others engage actively with local communities, providing education, spiritual guidance, and even participating in local festivals and events. In the realm of personal growth, senior monks may undertake solitary retreats, lasting from a few weeks to several years. These retreats are times of intense meditation and self-reflection aimed at achieving deeper spiritual insights. The solitude and silence of these retreats are considered essential for advanced spiritual growth. The relationship between the monks and their environment is also significant. They often live in areas of natural beauty and serenity, which not only provides a conducive atmosphere for meditation and contemplation, but also instills a deep respect for nature. Environmental conservation is thus an integral part of many monasteries' activities, rooted in the Buddhist principle of living in harmony with all forms of life. The life of Tibetan monks is also marked by ceremonies and rituals throughout the year corresponding to the lunar calendar. The Monlam Prayer Festival, for instance, is a major event that attracts monks from various monasteries, featuring prayers, rituals, and debates. Contrary to popular belief, there are large communities of female nuns that also live the same life as monks do. The lives of female nuns in Tibet, also known as annis, are rich in spiritual devotion and community service, reflecting a deep commitment to the principles of Tibetan Buddhism. Their daily routines and spiritual practices share similarities with those of male monks, yet they also have distinct aspects that define their unique place in the religious landscape of Tibet. They typically reside in nunneries, which are often smaller and more secluded than the monasteries of male monks. These nunneries serve as centers of spiritual learning and practice, offering a sanctuary for women dedicated to religious life. The decision to become a nun is often driven by a desire for spiritual growth, enlightenment, and the wish to escape the cycle of samsara, or worldly suffering. Education is highly valued in the nunneries. Traditionally, nuns had fewer opportunities for scholarly study compared to male monks, but this has been changing in recent years. Many nunneries now offer rigorous programs of study that include philosophy, debate, Tibetan medicine, and astrology alongside traditional religious teachings. Like monks, nuns observe vows of celibacy, simplicity, and non-violence. Their lifestyle is one of renunciation, where material possessions are minimal, and the focus is on spiritual rather than worldly wealth. Their attire, like that of the male monks, usually consists of maroon robes, symbolizing their renunciation of secular life and dedication to monastic life. Despite their commitment and contributions, female nuns historically have faced more challenges than their male counterparts in terms of recognition and opportunities for advanced study and practice. However, there has been a growing movement within Tibetan Buddhism to promote gender equality and empower nuns. Initiatives like the establishment of more nunneries, advanced study programs, and the conferment of the Geshe degree, a high-level academic achievement in Buddhist studies, are significant steps towards this. Nuns often have a special devotion to Tara, a female bodhisattva in Tibetan Buddhism, revered as a deity of compassion and protection. Tara represents the feminine aspect of compassion and is a source of inspiration and strength for many nuns. Tibet is home to some of the most awe-inspiring and culturally significant landmarks on the planet. Perhaps the most iconic of all Tibetan landmarks is the Potala Palace. Perched majestically on Mapo Ri Hill, over 12,000 feet above sea level, in the heart of Lhasa, the Potala Palace is a marvel of Tibetan architecture and a symbol of Tibetan Buddhism. Originally built in the 7th century by King Songtsen Gampo, it was later greatly expanded and served as the winter residence of the Dalai Lamas until the 14th Dalai Lama's exile in 1959. Potala Palace stands out for its unique design, blending Tibetan, Indian, and Chinese architectural influences. Its interior is a labyrinth of rooms and halls filled with intricate murals, sacred artifacts, and tombs of past Dalai Lamas. The palace's walls are adorned with exquisite Thangka paintings and sculptures embodying the rich cultural heritage of Tibet. This massive structure, comprising the white and red palaces, stands over 13 stories high and contains over 1,000 rooms. The White Palace was the living quarters of the Dalai Lama, while the Red Palace is dedicated to religious study and prayer. The intricate murals and statues within the palace tell the story of Tibet's history and religion. This UNESCO World Heritage Site is not just a tourist attraction, but a pilgrimage site for Tibetan Buddhists who often walk around it in a practice known as Kora. Just a short distance away in the bustling center of Lhasa lies the Jokang Temple, another jewel in the crown of Tibetan spirituality. Founded in the same era as Potala by King Songtsen Gampo, Jokang Temple is revered as one of the most sacred sites in Tibetan Buddhism. It stands as a focal point for religious festivals and pilgrimages. Historically, Jokyang Temple was built to accommodate the statues of Buddha brought to Tibet as part of the dowries of the king's Nepalese and Chinese wives. Over the centuries, the temple has been expanded and now encompasses a complex of chapels, shrines, and prayer halls. Architecturally, Jokyang combines elements of Indian vihara design, Tibetan, and Nepalese architecture, which is evident in its intricate wood carvings, murals, and decorated pillars. The temple's exterior is striking with its gilded rooftop statues and its facade adorned with rich wood carvings and bronze tiles. Inside, the temple houses a revered statue of Jowo Rinpoche, a representation of the Buddha at age 12, which is considered one of the most sacred objects in Tibetan Buddhism. The presence of this statue makes Jokyang the focal point of numerous religious festivals and rituals. Pilgrims from all over Tibet visit Jokyang, often performing prostrations and circumambulating the temple. Declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site as part of the historic ensemble of the Potala Palace, Jokyang Temple continues to be a site of immense cultural and spiritual significance. Just steps away from the sacred Jokyang Temple, encircling it like a protective embrace, lies Bakor Street, a vibrant artery that pulsates with the spiritual and cultural life of Tibet. This ancient street, more than just a thoroughfare, is an integral part of the pilgrim's circumambulation route around the Jokyang Temple. Bakor Street is a microcosm of Tibetan society, bustling with pilgrims, tourists, and locals alike. As pilgrims perform their devotional kora, walking clockwise around the temple while spinning prayer wheels and chanting mantras, the street buzzes with the energy of daily Tibetan life. Lined with an array of shops and stalls, Bakor offers an array of Tibetan handicrafts, religious artifacts, traditional clothing, and local delicacies. It is a paradise for those looking to immerse themselves in Tibetan culture and pick up souvenirs like Thenka paintings, prayer flags, and Tibetan jewelry. As you leave the bustling energy of Bakor Street, a short journey brings you to the serene and scholarly ambience of Sera Monastery. Located on the outskirts of Lhasa, this historic monastery is one of the great university monasteries of Tibet, a cornerstone of Tibetan Buddhism's intellectual tradition. Sera Monastery, founded in 1419 by Jamchen Choje of the Sakya school of Tibetan Buddhism, is renowned for its unique and dynamic practice of monastic debate. Visitors are often captivated by these lively debates, which usually occur in the monastery's debate courtyard in the afternoons. Monks gather in pairs, engaging in animated discussions marked by emphatic gestures and claps. Leaving behind the scholarly ambience of Sera Monastery, a journey towards a different facet of Tibetan culture brings you to Norbalinka, the former summer residence of the Dalai Lamas. Located in the western part of Lhasa, Norbalinka, meaning Jewel Park in Tibetan, is a masterpiece of Tibetan art and architecture set amidst an expanse of lush gardens and tranquil waterways. Constructed in the 18th century under the 7th Dalai Lama, Norbalinka served as a summer retreat for successive Dalai Lamas until 1959. The park covers an area of about 360,000 square meters, making it the largest man-made garden in Tibet. It houses several palaces and pavilions, each constructed during the tenure of different Dalai Lamas, and each reflecting the architectural style and artistic trends of their respective periods. The heart of Norbalinka is its beautiful and intricately designed gardens. These gardens are a rare instance of Tibetan landscaping art. The tranquility and natural beauty of the gardens have made Norbalinka a cherished oasis in Lhasa. The main palace in the complex, the Tukten Migyur Patrang, built by the 14th Dalai Lama, is a particularly notable structure. Its design incorporates elements of Tibetan, Chinese, and Western architecture, making it a unique symbol of Tibetan cultural evolution. Inside, the rooms are adorned with murals depicting traditional Tibetan themes and historical events, providing a visual feast for visitors. Norbalinka is not just a showcase of Tibetan architecture and horticulture, it's also a cultural hub. It plays host to the annual Shoten Festival, marked by traditional Tibetan opera performances and picnics in the park, drawing locals and tourists alike. Declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site, Norbolinka is a testament to the artistic achievements and religious devotion of the Tibetan people. Another noteworthy place just on the outskirts of Lhasa is the Drepung Monastery. Founded in 1416 by Jamyang Choje, a disciple of Tsongkhapa, the founder of the Gelug school of Tibetan Buddhism, Drepung Monastery has been a pivotal center of religious and educational activity. Drepung, meaning rice heap in Tibetan, was named for the white monastic buildings sprawling across the hillside, resembling a heap of rice from afar. The monastery complex is divided into several colleges, each focusing on different aspects of Buddhist philosophy and practice. These include Gomang, Losling, Dayang, and Ngagpa colleges, contributing to a vibrant academic and spiritual environment. The monastery's Great Assembly Hall, or Dzogchen, is a focal point for religious ceremonies and teachings. This grand hall, adorned with intricate thankas and statues, resonates with the chants and prayers of the monks, creating an atmosphere of deep reverence and tranquility. Drepung Monastery is also famous for its annual Shoton Festival, highlighted by the unveiling of a giant thangka painting, which draws pilgrims and visitors from across the region. Walking through Drepung, visitors can feel the weight of history and spirituality that imbues its walls. Perched on a hill in the Yarlung Valley of Tsedang, the Yumbulakang Palace is one of Tibet's most ancient and mystical sites. This striking structure is considered to be the first building in Tibet and the origin of Tibetan civilization. Its name, Yumbulakang, translates to Palace of Mother and Son in the Tibetan language. According to legend, Yumbulakang was built for the first Tibetan king, Nyatri Tsenpo, who descended from the heavens. The palace initially served as a fortress and was later transformed into a monastery. Its history is deeply intertwined with the introduction of Buddhism to Tibet. Architecturally, Yumbulakang presents a captivating fusion of fort and temple, characterized by its unique watchtower-like shape that distinguishes it from other Tibetan monasteries and palaces. The structure beautifully integrates with the rugged landscape, offering commanding views of the fertile Yarlung Valley below, often considered the cradle of Tibetan civilization. Over the centuries, Yumbulakang underwent several renovations and restorations, particularly after damage during the Cultural Revolution. Today, it houses a chapel dedicated to Sakyamuni Buddha and a statue of Nyatri Tsenpo, among other religious and cultural artifacts. Pilgrims and tourists alike are drawn to its serene ambience and the panoramic vistas it offers. The climb to the palace, involving a series of stairs and paths, is considered a pilgrimage, culminating in the spiritually and historically rich environment of the palace. Southwest of Lhasa, in the Nyangchu Valley, you can find another incredible city. Gyantse is a small yet historically significant city in Tibet. The town of Gyantse is like a living museum, with its traditional Tibetan houses, cobbled streets, and vibrant local market. Walking through the town, visitors can experience the daily life of the locals, with yaks roaming the streets and monks going about their daily routines. The most prominent landmark in Gyantse is the Pelkor Choda Monastery, also known as Palcho Monastery. This monastery is unique in that it houses several different schools of Tibetan Buddhism under one roof. The main attraction within this complex is the Gyantse Kumbum, a magnificent tiered structure that is the largest stupa in Tibet. The kumbum, meaning 100,000 images, stands 9 stories tall and is adorned with a stunning array of statues and murals depicting Buddhist deities and stories. This architectural marvel is a masterpiece of Tibetan art and a significant pilgrimage site. Overlooking the town is the imposing Gyantse Dzong, or Gyantse Fortress. This historical fort dates back to the 14th century and played a crucial role in Tibetan defense, particularly during the British invasion of Tibet in 1904. A visit to the fortress provides insight into Tibet's military history and offers panoramic views of the town and the surrounding landscapes. A short drive away from Gyansa is the nearby Yamdrok Lake, one of the 3 holy lakes in Tibet known for its tranquil beauty and crystal clear waters. Yamdrok, known as Yamdrok Yumtso, translates to turquoise lake in Tibetan. It is believed that Yamdrok Lake has the power to help Tibetans find the reincarnated soul of the Dalai Lama. Another holy lake in Tibet, perhaps the holiest, is Namtso, which means heavenly lake in Tibetan. Located in the Tibetan Plateau's northern region, this lake is renowned for its crystal clear blue waters and the stunning backdrop of the Nyenchen Tangla mountain range. Namtso is considered sacred in Tibetan Buddhism because it's believed to be the seat of Paramasukha Chakrasamvara. The lake's shores are dotted with hermit caves and pilgrimage sites, and during certain times of the year, pilgrims circumambulate the lake, a journey that takes several days. The last of the 3 great holy lakes is the Manasarovar Lake, situated in Tibet's far west, close to the holy Mount Kailash. The lake is revered as a sacred place in 4 religions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Bon. In Hinduism, it is believed to be the abode of Lord Shiva, and in Buddhism, it is associated with the legendary lake Anavatapta, where Maya is said to have conceived Buddha. These 3 holy lakes are not just natural wonders, but also significant spiritual landmarks. The lake's serene beauty and their sacred status make them essential destinations for pilgrims and travelers seeking to experience the mystique and spirituality of Tibet. In Shigatse, the second largest city in Tibet, we can find the Tashil Hunpo Monastery, one of the largest and most important monasteries in Tibetan Buddhism. Founded in 1447 by His Holiness, the first Dalai Lama, Gendun Drup, it has since been the traditional seat of the Panchen Lama, one of the most significant religious figures in Tibet. The monastery's name, Tashil Hunpo, translates to all fortune and happiness gathered here, or heap of glory. It is a fitting name for a site that has been a center of spiritual and cultural life for centuries. The complex spreads over a large area, featuring a series of chapels, halls and colleges, and is encircled by sturdy walls. One of the most striking features of Tashil Hunpo Monastery is the Maitreya Chapel, which houses a gigantic statue of Maitreya Buddha, the future Buddha. Standing at nearly 27 meters, 88 feet tall, this statue is one of the largest gilded statues in the world, and is a marvel of craftsmanship decorated with precious stones and metals. Tashil Hunpo also boasts the Kelsang Temple, one of the oldest and most significant structures within the monastery. This temple houses numerous shrines, chapels, and a vast collection of sacred Buddhist texts. The monastery is also known for its impressive collection of thankas, murals and sculptures, which not only bear religious significance, but are also valuable cultural artifacts that offer insights into the rich history of Tibetan art and iconography. Monastery's architecture is a striking example of Tibetan design, with its bright red and white buildings, gold-topped stupas, and intricate wood carvings. The grandiose assembly hall, known as the Chomchen, is one of the most significant structures within the monastery, where monks gather for prayers and rituals. At the Wangbo Mountain, we can find another monastery of immense religious and historical significance. The Ganden Monastery, founded in 1409 by Tsongkhapa, the founder of the Gelugpa, Yellow Hat sect of Tibetan Buddhism, is one of the great 3 university monasteries of Tibet, alongside Sera and Drepung monasteries. The name Ganden means joyful and is a reference to Tushita, the heavenly abode of the Bodhisattva Maitreya. The monastery quickly became a renowned center for religious study and practice, attracting scholars and practitioners from all over Tibet. One of the unique features of Ganden Monastery is its layout, which is divided into 2 main colleges, Jangtse and Shatse. Each college specializes in different aspects of Buddhist philosophy and practice. At the heart of the monastery stands the Serdung, which contains the golden tomb of Tsongkhapa. This sacred site is a focal point for pilgrims who come to pay their respects to the revered teacher. The monastery was severely damaged during the Cultural Revolution, but has since been partially restored. Despite this, Ganden continues to be an important religious and educational institution. Samye Monastery holds a special place in the history of Tibetan Buddhism as the first Buddhist monastery established in Tibet. Located in the Dranang Valley of Loka, near the banks of the Yarlung Tsangpo River, Samye was founded in the 8th century under the patronage of King Trisong Detsen. The monastery's establishment marked a significant point in Tibetan history, where Buddhism took firm root in the region, catalyzed by the efforts of the Indian Buddhist masters Shantarakshita and Padmasambhava, Guru Rinpoche. Architecturally, Samye Monastery is remarkable and unique. It is designed to represent the Buddhist universe, based on the description found in traditional Buddhist cosmology. The central temple symbolizes Mount Meru, the mythical center of the universe, and is surrounded by a series of smaller temples and buildings representing continents, oceans, and subcontinents as per Buddhist cosmological texts. The walls of the monastery are adorned with ancient frescoes that depict various aspects of Buddhist teachings and Tibetan history. It was here that many important texts were first translated into Tibetan, laying the foundation for the rich tradition of Tibetan Buddhism. The monastery has been a center for spiritual learning, retreat, and pilgrimage for centuries. Rongbuk Monastery, nestled amidst the stark and breathtaking landscape of the Himalayas, holds the distinction of being the highest monastery in the world. Situated at an elevation of about 5,000 meters, 16,400 feet, near the base of the north face of Mount Everest in Tibet, it offers unparalleled views of the highest peak on Earth. Founded in 1902 by a Nying Marpa Lama, Rongbuk Monastery belongs to the Nyingma sect of Tibetan Buddhism. Despite its remote location, it has been an important spiritual site for Tibetan Buddhists, serving as a center for meditation and pilgrimage. The monastery is relatively small, but its significance in Tibetan spirituality is immense, particularly due to its association with the Komalangma, the Tibetan name for Mount Everest, which holds great religious significance as the residence of one of the 5 great protector goddesses of Tibetan Buddhism. The monastery has been a key stop for mountaineers heading to Everest, particularly before the ascent to the Everest Base Camp, which lies a few kilometers away. Historically, it provided shelter and spiritual solace to these adventurers. The sight of monks and nuns in their crimson robes set against the backdrop of the towering Himalayas is a profoundly picturesque and serene image. Rongbuk Monastery features a series of meditation caves, which were once used by monks for intense meditation practices. These caves are scattered around the monastery, some of them offering breathtaking views of Everest. The main temple of the monastery contains a statue of Sakyamuni Buddha and features wall paintings depicting scenes from the life of Buddha and the history of the monastery. The Guj Kingdom ruins, located in far western Tibet, offer a captivating glimpse into the rich history of this ancient kingdom. Situated in the Ngari prefecture, these ruins are often referred to as the Tsaparang ruins, named after the former capital of the Guj Kingdom. The Guj Kingdom was a thriving civilization that emerged in the 10th century and reached its zenith during the 16th century. It was renowned for its art, culture, and unique form of Buddhism, which combined elements of Tibetan Buddhism with indigenous Bon practices. The kingdom's strategic location along the ancient Silk Road contributed to its prosperity, as it served as a vital trading hub between India and Central Asia. The most iconic feature of the Guja Kingdom ruins is the Tsaparang Fortress, perched atop a striking sandstone mesa. This fortress once housed the royal palace, temples, and dwellings of the ruling elite. Inside the Tsaparang Fortress, visitors can explore the remnants of the Red Temple, a significant religious site adorned with vivid frescoes and clay statues. The paintings depict Buddhist deities, legends, and scenes from everyday life during the kingdom's heyday. Over the centuries, the Guj Kingdom faced a series of challenges, including invasions, political instability, and environmental changes. By the 17th century, the kingdom had declined, and its once thriving cities were abandoned. The reasons for the kingdom's decline remain a subject of historical debate. Tibet's high altitude is one of its defining features. It's crucial for visitors to acclimatize to prevent altitude sickness. Plan your itinerary in a way that allows gradual ascent and consider spending a few days in a lower altitude area like Lhasa before moving higher. Always stay hydrated and listen to your body. The best time to visit Tibet is from April to October, with the most favorable weather conditions. However, traveling in the off-season can offer a different perspective of Tibet, with fewer tourists and potentially more authentic interactions with locals. Winter visits can be challenging due to the cold, but offer clear views of the magnificent Himalayas. Staying in a Tibetan homestay or a locally run guest house can offer a more immersive experience. It provides an opportunity to live closely with Tibetan families, understand their way of life, and enjoy home-cooked Tibetan meals. Interaction with the Tibetan people can be the highlight of your trip. They are known for their hospitality and warmth. Engaging in conversations, even with a language barrier, can be deeply rewarding. Learning a few words in Tibetan can go a long way in showing respect and appreciation for their culture. Tibetan culture is rich in unique and interesting everyday customs that reflect the region's deep spiritual heritage and communal way of life. On some occasions, you may see people showing their tongues. This practice carries a fascinating backstory and significance. The custom of sticking out the tongue dates back to the 9th century, associated with the Tibetan king Langdharma, who is often depicted with a black tongue. Langdharma was notorious for his cruelty and his suppression of Buddhism in Tibet. After his assassination, it was believed that his spirit would reincarnate to continue his malevolent deeds. To prove they were not the reincarnation of this despised king, Tibetans began the practice of showing their tongues to one another. A pink tongue was seen as proof that one was not the malevolent spirit of Langdharma. In contemporary Tibet, showing the tongue has evolved into a greeting gesture, symbolizing respect, honesty, and openness, so it's polite to respond in kind. Presenting a white silk scarf, known as a kata, is a traditional way to show respect or hospitality. It's often given during greetings, farewells, or as an offering in religious settings. In Tibet, a leisurely pace of life is embraced and valued by the locals. Tibetans find joy in savoring a slower rhythm. They often gather with friends at local tea houses, enjoying each other's company and engaging in meaningful conversations. When visiting Tibet, it is recommended to take the unhurried pace and indulge in a leisurely experience at a local tea house along Barkor Street, allowing oneself to truly appreciate the essence of Tibetan life. With everything we've discussed about Tibet so far, we can't refrain from mentioning that Tibet faces a myriad of challenges that often remain overshadowed by its mystical portrayal in popular media. The reality of life in Tibet, under the shadow of various socio-political and environmental issues, presents a starkly different picture from the spiritual haven often imagined. One of the most pressing concerns in Tibet is the political situation, which has been a point of contention since China's takeover in 1951. The imposition of Chinese rule has led to significant cultural and religious repression. Tibetan Buddhism, the cornerstone of Tibetan identity, has faced restrictions, and instances of monastery demolitions and forced removals have been reported. This suppression extends to a curtailment of freedoms, including the freedom of speech and the right to peaceful assembly. The Dalai Lama, Tibet's spiritual leader, has been in exile for decades, symbolizing the ongoing struggle for Tibetan autonomy. The environmental challenges in Tibet are equally worrying. The region is experiencing the adverse effects of climate change more acutely than many other parts of the world, with its glaciers, which are vital sources of water for millions of people in Asia, receding at an alarming rate. This environmental degradation is compounded by mining and infrastructure projects that threaten the fragile ecosystem. The construction of dams and roads, while promoting development, disrupts traditional nomadic routes and alters the natural landscape significantly. The traditional lifestyle of Tibetans, particularly the nomadic communities, is under threat. Government policies encouraging sedentarization have forced many nomads to abandon their way of life and move to permanent settlements. This shift, while bringing some modern conveniences, often leads to a loss of cultural identity and a breakdown of traditional social structures. The influx of Han Chinese into Tibet, encouraged by government policies, has led to a dilution of Tibetan culture and a rise in social tensions. The influx has resulted in demographic changes that have fueled feelings of marginalization among the indigenous Tibetan population. In terms of employment and business, Tibetans often find themselves at a disadvantage compared to their Han counterparts. For Tibetans living in exile, life is fraught with challenges. In countries like India and Nepal, they live in a state of uncertainty, often without citizenship and with limited rights. These communities struggle to preserve their language, culture, and identity in foreign lands. The exile government, while functioning as a symbol of Tibetan aspirations, grapples with limited resources and international recognition. The education system in Tibet, heavily influenced by Chinese policies, often prioritizes Mandarin over Tibetan language, leading to a decline in the usage and proficiency of the Tibetan language among the younger generation. This language shift has profound implications for cultural preservation and the transmission of traditional knowledge. Additionally, Tibet faces significant mental health challenges. The political repression, cultural changes, and social upheavals have taken a toll on the mental well-being of many Tibetans. Limited access to mental health services exacerbates this issue, leaving many individuals without the support they need. Addressing these pressing issues is crucial for ensuring the well-being of its people and the preservation of its unique heritage. The global community's role in recognizing and responding to the struggles faced by Tibet is also crucial. International awareness and support can play a key role in addressing human rights issues and advocating for the preservation of Tibet's unique cultural and environmental landscape. The situation is further complicated by the limited international media access to Tibet, making it challenging to obtain accurate and unbiased information about the region. This lack of transparency hinders the global understanding of Tibet's challenges and the formulation of effective strategies to address them. In summary, Tibet, a land renowned for its spiritual depth and natural beauty, confronts a multitude of challenges: political issues, cultural repression, environmental degradation, economic inequalities, and social changes pose significant threats to the well-being of its people and the preservation of its unique heritage. Addressing these challenges requires a concerted effort from both the Tibetan people and the international community, emphasizing respect for human rights, cultural diversity, and environmental conservation.